If we respond with this sarcastic, like, oh yeah, we really need more masculine energy, what a joke, losers, it's kind of immature and really unhelpful, and it doesn't allow for any more nuanced conversation about the issue at all. The response that we've seen to Zuckerberg's comments has been very myopic, in my opinion, and I think there's a much bigger conversation to be had here about the roles that men and women have to play in the modern workplace. And if we can actually sit with it and crack it open and explore it, then we can start to understand, well, why is this brosphere taking up so much space? Like, why is this so appealing to men? Is it because workplaces have become a little bit culturally neutered? Is it because we're bundling up masculinity with this idea of toxicity as if they're one and the same thing? I wonder where this is coming from. I wonder why Trump got elected again when he's so clearly so flawed as a leader. Why is he appealing to people so much? What have we created space for? I think these are all really empowering and impactful questions to be asking if you're a woman who's interested in leadership. I'm Madeline Eliza, leader, writer, performer, and founder of Bhakti Lab, an incubator for soul-led entrepreneurs. Join me to explore the edgy intersection of the brain and the body, feminine and masculine, ancient and modern, sensual and spiritual, to help you liberate your personal power and turn your biggest, boldest visions into reality. Hi everyone. Today's episode is a little bit controversial. So a few weeks ago, Mark Zuckerberg went on Joe Rogan's podcast and had a very long 3-hour conversation during which he spoke about the need for more masculine energy in the workplace. Cue feminist uproar from all sectors of the internet. There was absolute outrage in response to these comments and this interview. And if you take the comments out of context, which is mostly what's been done, I can see why outrage would be an appropriate response. But when you actually listen to the whole interview, which I did, 3 hours of my life I'll never get back, there's more to it. And I'm a female executive level leader, and I actually agree with most of what Mark Zuckerberg said about the balance of masculine and feminine energy in the workplace. And in this episode, I'm going to tell you why. So let's start with talking about the episode itself. This was a very long, wide-ranging conversation. I'm not a listener of the Joe Rogan show. I do not fit the target demographic. I'm female, for one thing. And I'll get into the commentary on the show itself and the female response to the topics that Rogan and Zuckerberg talk about, which are not interesting to me. But I'm sure that the podcasts that I choose to listen to as an astrologically inclined woman are not interesting to most men either. So I'm going to get to that at the end. I'm going to start by just outlining the comments that Zuckerberg made about the workplace, the response to those comments, and then why I actually think that he's right with the perspective that I've got on polarity and masculine feminine energetics and where feminism has gone wrong, creating the space for this brosphere to emerge. If we keep getting into an outraged state every time the bros make some comment, rather than actually listening and going, how did we land here and how can we do better collectively? We're never going to get anywhere. We need to actually stop and listen. Like perhaps start by listening to the whole episode instead of taking a soundbite out of context and running with it, which is what has happened. So we're just going to slow down and unravel this a little bit today. Let's start with the episode. This podcast interview went for about 3 hours. I listened to most of it. I certainly listened to all of the comments about the workplace. And they talk about COVID and censorship, which I found quite interesting. They talk about a whole lot of fitness training, martial arts, injury recovery, bodybuilding, hunting, ranching, like a whole lot of topics that frankly do not interest me at all. They spent about 20 minutes talking about how to recover from an ACL injury. I found it boring, but I'm not the target demographic. So a lot of the response to this is like poo-pooing the topics that they choose to talk about. It's like listening to two men talking at the gym. I wouldn't necessarily be interested in the conversation, but that doesn't make it wrong. Just like the woo-woo conversation about the fucking eclipse portal we're currently in and the crazy astrology that's happening and how to do better manifesting with your energy might not be interesting to the bros at the gym, but that's what I like to talk about with my girlfriends. Like, we're allowed to be interested in different things. It doesn't make it wrong. We don't have to treat each other with contempt. This is going to be a little bit of a rant. So this very long conversation, and in part of it, so they're talking about Mark Zuckerberg and his training regime. He's getting into martial arts, which Joe Rogan is very much in support of because he's all about that. So they're talking about his training regime. And I think it started with Joe Rogan saying, how has this impacted the way that you show up at work? Because, you know, Zuckerberg's going from being this real nerdy, like computer programmer guy to being super into martial arts and fighting. And this is when he starts talking about the balance of masculine and feminine energies within the workplace. And he couches this whole conversation by saying a few things which are being dropped off of all the outraged hysterical response. He says, you know, I have 3 sisters and 3 daughters and I care deeply about women, words to that effect. And he acknowledges that if you're a woman, your experience has probably been that the workplace is too masculine and we live in a patriarchy, and for decades that has been the status quo. So he does acknowledge that. And then he talks about what's happened in recent years in the wake of Me Too, especially with the cultural neutering that has happened in the workplace. And he says expressions of masculine energy are not celebrated, and he feels like we would benefit from more masculine energy in the workplace. And he talks about qualities like aggression as a typically masculine quality. I'm going to get into my interpretation on this in a moment. He also says that not only do we need more masculine energies, we actually need to celebrate the masculine and the feminine. Like, we need both. This is polarity, right? Like, let's celebrate the feminine and let's celebrate the masculine and let's celebrate the differences. He doesn't say that feminine energy should be suppressed. Nowhere does he say that. That's what's being taken out of context and read between the lines in the hysterical responses that we're seeing. So those are Zuckerberg's comments. And the piece that has got people in uproar is saying we need more masculine energy, we need more aggression in the workplace. And people are talking about this as being the rise of toxic masculinity, a terrifying backslide, blah, blah, blah. If you Google Zuckerberg workplace masculine energy, you will find dozens of articles, mostly written by women, ranging from concerned, like earnest concern and academically unpacking the topic, to outright like sarcastic contempt. And I don't think this is particularly helpful. And it's the same as with Trump. I recorded another episode about Trump, not because I'm a huge fan of the brosphere, because I'm interested in the cultural moment that we are in that is giving rise to this type of rhetoric. Donald Trump didn't come from nowhere. He has been elected president twice because he resonates deeply with people. I'm interested in understanding why. What are we on the left, woke brigade, missing in that? And it's the same with Zuckerberg's comments. If we respond with this sarcastic, like, oh yeah, we really need more masculine energy, what a joke, losers. It's kind of immature and really unhelpful, and it doesn't allow for any more nuanced conversation about the issue at all. We're just dismissing and denigrating each other. And I do not think that that's a mature or helpful way to deal with it. So that's the response. You can Google it. There's so many articles written about this. You'll get a sense of the flavor of these articles. So I want to talk about why I actually agree with Zuckerberg's comments about polarity in the workplace. And the other thing is, I doubt that most of the people writing these outraged articles actually listened to the interview, because when you listen to the whole thing, his comments are quite reasonable and quite balanced. He's not arguing for women and feminine energy to be dismissed in the workplace. He's saying we have culturally neutered things and we're not allowing for like the archetypal expressions of masculinity to be celebrated and expressed in the workplace. They're being suppressed. And I think this is on a continuum, you know, every workplace is different, but I am seeing this broader cultural trend popping up everywhere where women have been angry, we have been suppressed for a long time, and so we're responding by making masculinity wrong and kind of making men the problem. And we're getting so heated in the way that we talk about it that, sure, nobody wants toxic masculinity in their lives or their workplaces, but we're throwing the baby out with the bathwater, and we're throwing all masculinity out under the bracket of toxic, and not all masculinity is toxic. I actually agree with his comments, and part of what I advocate for in feminine leadership is a new model of feminine leadership where we are completely grounded, embodied, and fully expressed in our femininity, which does not happen under patriarchy, not even under like feminist lean-in models of female empowerment. We're still operating in a masculine paradigm. I think we would do much better if we can actually celebrate the differences between the masculine and the feminine and empower female leaders and feminine identified beings to fully express the full radiance and powerful force of their feminine energy in the workplace, and to have that be celebrated and acknowledged as valuable, and to have men and masculine identified beings be fully expressed and celebrated in their masculine energy as well. And some of the, if we look at the traits of the masculine and the feminine, how they play out in the workplace, as women, we are naturally more affiliative. We are the ones who sat around, hunter-gatherer times, making sure the tribe was okay, collaborating and working together to achieve a common outcome. Fitting in, belonging, reading the emotional temperature of the room, these are all really core feminine traits. Women tend to be intuitive, perceptive, empathic, collaborative. We're interested in cohesion and flow, generally speaking. And these are strengths to have in the workplace. I'm interested in cohesion and flow. I'm an operational leader. I'm interested in cohesion and flow in systems, in processes, and in teams. That's what I am really, really good at. I'm very perceptive, I'm very intuitive, and I'm very empathic and compassionate, which makes me a good leader of people. I'm not naturally aggressive. I'm not naturally hungry to win. These are more traditionally masculine traits. So if you think of the hunter-gatherer model, where in prehistoric times, the role of the man was to go out and kill the food. Like win, kill, conquer, catch. These are masculine traits. I have worked in many workplaces which were dominated by men, and I've worked in many partnership dynamics alongside male CEOs. And I have to say that I really value the differences that men and women each bring to the table. I outlined, what I'm good at in the workplace. I do really well running fast alongside a masculine identified, strong, aggressive, competitive leader who wants to win. Like aggression is a good trait strategically if you're trying to grow a business and to be successful. I think that it should be celebrated. And I don't believe Zuckerberg was talking about aggression as in abusing your staff. He's talking about this natural masculine tendency to want to win, pursuit of winning, the pursuit of achieving goals. Like men are naturally more goal-oriented than women because of our biology. So when we make that wrong, we kind of cut the legs out from underneath ourselves as a team, because if we can work together, then we get to benefit from everybody's unique attributes. But if we make one group's attributes wrong, then we're left with an imbalance of feminine and masculine energies, and I don't think that serves anyone. So I actually agree that if we can acknowledge the strengths of the feminine and the masculine in the workplace and allow space for both to flourish and do their thing in a way that's not hurting anyone, then surely that's a good thing. And the tricky and confrontational part of this conversation is that it actually puts the onus back onto us as women and as female leaders to step into a new relationship with ourselves, with our bodies, and with our own power. Because a lot of us have grown up feeling like we have to be the good girl, we have to please everyone, we have to keep the peace. And in doing that, we cut ourselves off from the source of our own power, which is deep inside the body. And then we kind of cover it up with this pretendy masculine shell because we're being a girl boss and mixing it with the boys. But we're internally fragile. And I believe the work that is there to be done for most women is, and certainly for me, this has been my process as well, is to stop going outwards and complaining about inequality and needing system change, and turn your attention inwards to start with and claim all of the power that's there. Reckon with your own darkness, reckon with your own shadows, reckon with your female body, reckon with your shame, reckon with your desires as well, and come to a place of integration in yourself so that you can take up all the space that's available to you in an embodied, feminine, impactful way. And then you can go into the workplace and find that balance with the masculine energy that's around you, coming from a place of true inner empowerment, rather than having any layer of victim consciousness remaining. So this is why I agree with Zuckerberg. And it's this yin and yang balance, Shiva Shakti, like we need both of these energies. And I don't think that we serve anyone by making masculine energy wrong, just like it hasn't served anyone to make feminine energy wrong. And there's been a lot of work done to redress that balance now. But I'm really interested in broadening this conversation because the response that we've seen to Zuckerberg's comments has been very, very myopic, in my opinion. And I think there's a much bigger conversation to be had here about the roles that men and women have to play in the modern workplace. And if we can actually sit with it and crack it open and explore it, then we can start to understand, well, why is this brosphere taking up so much space? Like, why is this so appealing to men? Is it because workplaces have become a little bit culturally neutered? Is it because we're bundling up masculinity with this idea of toxicity as if they're one and the same thing? I wonder where this is coming from. I wonder why Trump got elected again when he's so clearly so flawed as a leader. Why is he appealing to people so much? What have we created space for? I think these are all really empowering and impactful questions to be asking if you're a woman who's interested in leadership. Rant over. I'm going to leave it there for today. Thanks so much for joining me. I have a lot of other podcast episodes on this topic if you want to go back looking at female masculine energy dynamics within the self and within the workplace. So there's lots for you to dive into if you want to go deeper on this topic. This is the Madeline Eliza Show, and you can find me on YouTube, on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you next time.